Yo, what's up bunnies? Welcome back to the burrow. My name's Rabbitneck and today I've got a video which is going to give you 8 tips and tricks on how I climbed low elo. So if you want your recent games to look something like this, make sure you stick around and I'll give you the ultimate guide on what I did, things that I implemented into my game to help me get out in just 2 weeks. So in this video we're going to go over some hints, tips and tricks how I managed to go from bronze 1 to silver 3 in just 2 weeks. So be sure to stick around to find out exactly how I did it, what I did, and why I did it. Okay, so enough of that. You're here because you want to know how to climb low elo. And guess what? You're in the right place. So let's get on to tip number 1. So tip number 1, you've got to warm up. It's that simple. No, that's not a warm up. That was stupid. What I mean is, go out in the game. You can either do blind pick, debatable, draft pick's better, or for quickness, play a few ARAMs. That's going to get your fingers warmed up, it's going to get your mind in the game, and you're ready to go for ranked. Okay, enough fooling around. On to tip number 2. You've got to play ranked. Sounds stupid, right? Wrong. You're only going to learn by playing in ranked. You're playing in blind pick or draft pick. People are generally trying to practice. They might be learning new champions, different builds, those sort of things. The game isn't taken as seriously. For that reason, people don't really care if they win or if they lose. Another point of this is you can't physically climb the ladder if you don't play ranked. Okay, time for tip number 3. Okay, we're getting into the good stuff now. Champions and champion select. So this is where my video goes slightly sideways compared to others. All the videos out there, they all say play the meta champions, they're the OP champions, that's how you're going to win games. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Unless you already know how to play the champion, by the time you've learned all its tricks, the best abilities, the best builds, yada yada yada, you get it. By the time you've done all that, you've had enough games to actually be able to carry in a ranked game. Chances are the champ's been nerfed and you're back to square one. Let's just say, for example, you already know how to play one of the meta champions. Okay, great, but it's probably got a really high ban rate. So that's no good for you because you're never going to be able to play it because it's always going to get banned. So how do we overcome this problem? Pretty straightforward. Pick a champion which you like, easy to play with, has a low ban rate, and because of that you get lots and lots and lots and lots of games with that champion. You learn to master it and you learn to carry with it. So as I showed you at the start of the video, here's some games which I played with Vi. Very low ban rate, very easy to play, can be OP and get lots of wins. Okay, so here we are, we're in game and it's time for tip number 4. Okay, so tip number 4, first thing you should do when you get in game is mute all, /mute all. You've got to remember that this is low elo. Mistakes will happen either by you or by your teammates. Stop the tilt by just muting everybody's chat, and in some cases you should also mute the pings too. I personally make this mistake far too often and I do need to do it in more of my games. It just stops the tilt. If you're a person that tilts very easily or gets annoyed pretty quickly, when you start the tilt, it's very hard to get out of that mindset and you'll find yourself making stupid plays that you wouldn't normally make, and obviously they're the sort of plays that will ultimately lose you the game. Okay, so now we're on to tip number 5. Farming and ganking. When to do what. Okay, so this is one area where a lot of people struggle, and I've struggled there myself as well. generally it is just a case of you farm until a gank is available. You don't want to force a gank if the lane state isn't correct, because it's either going to be a failed gank, you waste a little bit of time, which means you waste XP and ultimately gold, or worst case scenario is you die, your laner dies, and then you're both massively behind. So usually at this point you want to be looking for a gank. Got level 3, but there's not really anything showing on the map which is worthwhile, which is close by, and by that would be top lane or mid lane. So instead we just decide to go for the scuttle crab instead and get a little bit of vision in the jungle, which is always a positive. So as Kayn doesn't show up to contest the first scuttle, we can safely assume that he is doing bottom scuttle. So the next thing to do really is, there's still nothing worthwhile ganking, that we make a quick change of play down to the bot lane, because if he is doing bottom scuttle, then the bot lane has a high chance of being ganked. Also notice how I ping a question mark on the scuttle, so both mid and bot know to sort of be wary that he's there, and then ping on the way. And in this instance, Zed happily came to help contest it. So we spot Kayn coming across to the bot side river through mid, which was very silly. Showed himself on the map, and it was an easy kill for us. So, silly Billy Kayn. So from there on out, it's pretty much the same thing. Basically just rinse and repeat. We go back to bot lane because they were the next set of camps to spawn. So we're going to take the wolves. We'll then push down and take Grump, and at that point we can then look for a pick either mid or bot lane. You'll notice on the way down we actually run into Kayn, who was trying to do a similar sort of thing, trying to punish the bot lane. So quite lucky that I was there at the right time. We get quite a bit of damage off on the bot lane and Kayn, as you will see, which then opens us up to go into the next tips, which for me I would class as the most important. So do make sure you stick around and find out what. Now, I cannot stress enough how important getting early drakes are, early rifts. They are 100% your win conditions for every single game. Now, there's no right or wrong objective to take first. You can take rift first, you can take the dragon first. Obviously dragon spawns earlier, so it is recommended to go for that if you have priority in your bot lane, and ideally you also want priority in your mid lane. One thing to think about is if you don't have the vision and the enemy knows that you're doing dragon, for example, chances are they're probably going to try and rush rift. So it's a good idea to have vision in both areas, so you can see if they are trying to get the other objective in maybe your top lane, mid lane or bot lane, would then be able to go and help contest get that as well. You want to be preparing for this at least a minute in advance of the objective spawning, so you want to spam ping in the group in the chat that the objective's coming up. You want to get in there early. You want to use your sweeper to remove their vision, and you want to get your vision down in and around the objective area. If you can get in their jungle, which is great, so you get more of a warning if they're trying to come and contest the objective. Okay, so this brings us nicely into tip number 8, where we're going to be talking about end game. We are talking about objectives like Baron and Elder Drake. For either of these, if you're going to be playing for Baron, you want to have at least priority in mid lane and ideally top lane. And likewise for Elder, you want to have priority in mid lane and bot lane. So here you can see we push down mid lane and we make our way up to Baron, get a nice kill on Kayn, which makes it even easier. And we take down Baron with pretty much no interference from the enemy team. Okay, so with Baron buff, it is just a case of working as a team and take down as many of the remaining turrets as possible. For us, as mid lane was already heavily pushed in, we obviously just continued with that. And as you can see, we pretty quickly finish up the game with a few extra kills. So I hope that you liked and enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be much appreciated if you would hit that like button, subscribe, and also turn on notifications so you can be notified as to when my next videos go live, which I am always working on. Aim to get a video out at least once a week. Some of it's just sort of general gameplay, also working on tutorial videos like this one. The next tutorial video will be on Vi. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!